Here's what we're talking about. What are your favorite rewards today at work? What's something you like, a reward you like to receive at work?
Money.
Sit down. Thank you for being honest. So, huh? What'd you say? A lot?
Howard, I had a...
And so any reward is good to have more of it, right? That's a good point, Walker. Yes? But he sees your light. So part of it's just let your light shine. Right? He sees that there's something different about you. There's something different about him in their will. You don't have to list them all, but one is his light shines. And they know it. And then that's a part of it. Just, if everything's toward one thing, I can see that you may be working for money. I can't go watch that movie, The Office. I can't keep coming in if this is the way. I'm just not going to go in anymore. You can't keep coming in if there's not a reciprocity. And yet, if you know that's not the main reason, if you know this guy's really all about light, people are drawn to you. That's awesome. 10 cities. That's the reward. That's what we talked about 2 weeks ago. 10 cities. And how many we just see, we're all here basically. Paul was so faithful that we're all here basically because of his faithfulness. That's not too much of an extrapolation. Yes, God did it. God causes the growth. Paul and Apollos watered. That comes right before our memory verse, by the way. And God causes the growth. But through their faithfulness, he uses it to build. And now cities everywhere have God's word and able to read it. And thank goodness Martin Luther helped us out and got it back in our common language. So we didn't just leave it into all one language we didn't understand. But 10 cities, and that's, who knows what you two guys will do together as you now you have that common faith and you can talk about it and how you might encourage somebody who needs it. What's the greatest reward? Tom's already kind of, taking this out of this regular day-to-day work. But what's the greatest reward?
Eternity in heaven.
It is. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. It's in the guy going, oh man, I guess I'll go to church this morning. Yeah, man, I guess it's the guy in his great joy. Who likes all-in people at work? Who can tell if they're all in? Who can tell the people in the office who are not all in are not going to make it? I like all in. But we like all-in people. We can tell it. We can sense it on the athletic fields. We can sense it in the office. We can sense it. And by the way, some of us in newer jobs, we don't know if we're all in yet. We're kind of checking it out. That's okay. But at some point, you're all in, and you can see it. This guy finds what's real and goes, there's no better definition of all in than this. Sells everything, and then in reluctance, and not quite sure, but in his
faith.
In his
joy.
In his joy, he's excited about it. He's really excited about it.
Jesus.
That's joy. They're synonymous. But in his joy, he just everything for one thing. Everything for one thing. Because that's the reward. Jesus is the reward. Okay. How do our business and kingdom life go together? How do our business and kingdom life go together? Yeah, and talking about financial plans, you don't have to meet anybody who's ever stressed out or doesn't understand where it's going, do you? Financial. Constant. How does, let me say this. In the legal practice, people are just totally at peace and they're saying, you do your part, I'm good. That's what they say to you. And so, think about Paul, and if he could put the business of tent making totally toward the kingdom, which is what that proxy is. Either way, he got rid of it all and did it on the side, because he counts everything as a loss toward knowing Christ. That's clear. Either way, that verse has more power and meaning based on what we learned. But how could that happen in the legal world? How does it happen? Tom just gave an example. Oh, you see that they're light. You bring a peace to a meeting that somebody else doesn't bring. But how else? And how often can you sense in your businesses if somebody has hope or not? That guy senses you have hope. You probably sense he had hope before, in some ways, right? You can sense it, and just one extra question all of a sudden makes these things synonymous. Like, how you doing with this? How you doing with this case? I'm pretty rough at this. Well, I know I'm supposed to do a main job for you, but let me tell you how you have hope no matter which way this thing turns out. Every one of our businesses is that way in a sense. You got 5 kids. You got 4 horses. That's what Jason was explaining with us. I understand your whole family. In financial services, we know. And somebody organizing somebody's finances, we know, and building a project for somebody, working with that larger team, you kind of know why they show up at work, why they don't. You know, one more question. Easy in Dale Carnegie. Everything has to do with that, right? No problem. What keeps them from being the same? What keeps us from making them synonymous? You don't think Paul? He had the highest societal and business honor, being known as a Roman citizen, a get out of jail free card, a settle your debts card, a settle all your disputes card, straight to the Supreme Court of the day, to Caesar if he needed to go, even for a business dispute. And then the highest religious order, the elder and a Pharisee of Pharisees, and number of the 71. He certainly risked that. He certainly said, well, that's some pretty good privileges, some pretty good seats. But I see I've used that wrong. I cast the pebble against Jesus. I cast my rock. So I'm surrendered. But then in the business, he would have been risking it all the time. He would have risked that every day to do that, and ultimately did, because he counted that nothing. But he did not give it up as an asset, as something to steward. Oh, these relationships I'm stewarding. What lasts forever in your business? The people. And even those folks we send to college, what do we want from them long term? We want them to have a successful job and do great for 82 years. We want to be with them forever. You know, we want them more to know God and be with them to eternity. So even that, we can see the kingdom. And kind of the same thing. What do I want most? I want success from my client. What's success? They may not know it. We used to say, but we got to do what they ask and meet their presenting need. You can't not meet the presenting need. You can't. Jordan, here's what we're not saying. Go and tell your boss, I'm not sure that's a kingdom goal. No, you'd soak on that a while. You'd get some advice. You decide you could stay there. And then you say, well, wait a minute, maybe I can't. Or maybe, no, I can do what he's asking. Like Daniel had to do all sorts of things that crazy Nebuchadnezzar asked him to do until he said, you can't worship your God. And then he was willing to risk his life for that. Okay. Here's what this devotional just rocked me. This is for those of you who have new morning mercies. This is November 6th. God loves you too much to be willing to forsake his glorious kingdom of grace for your self-absorbed little kingdom of one. He loves you too much for that. He's not going to let you stay there. On this side of our final destination, the great spiritual battle is all about kingdoms in conflict. That's what you're saying. Sin causes us all to anoint ourselves as kings and to live our lives with kingdom purposes. We all set ourselves up as sovereigns over kingdoms of one. We all want our will to be done. We all know what we want, when we want it, how we want it, and where we want it, and who we want to deliver it. Absolutely, positively on time. What does that last little part sound like? What's he playing on there? Jesus taught us how to pray. That's kind of just a flip on that, right? What we all know, what we want, our will to be done, what we want. And he didn't say it. I've said it 1,000 times as a good Catholic boy, and I've meant it at least 100 times. but I've meant this other one a lot too. My will, my time, my thing. You know, my kingdom, okay? So God gives us grace. His grace given to us what you need to be your own king. Is his grace bestowed on you so your little kingdom purposes will happen? No. God's grace dethrones you from your little kingdom and welcomes you to a much better kingdom that you could never want for yourself. We don't even have the vision to want it for ourselves. What he wants for us is so much more glorious. But in the kingdom, you will never be at the center. It will never be all about you, and you will never rule, because in this kingdom, all things are for God and God alone. I'm able to shift it because of his kingdom. I'm able to see it. Okay, so it's hard. It's not easy. But we need examples. Everybody like examples of other people doing it? So we got a little example of this company. And just note kingdom purposes, note economic flourishing and societal flourishing, and note business flourishing, all kind of intertwined. Just note it.
I think people have recognized apartment buildings as a place for community, as opposed to them being places where, hey, we all go in, we open our door, we close our door, we lock it, and we go spend our time privately. Landlords and managers, both faith-motivated and secular, have seen that there's a whole lot of power in creating a fabric of community and bringing people together and creating a neighborhood, even if it's a vertical neighborhood. And really, and that's a part of the thesis that we've uncovered, that if you can pour into community, you're doing two things that are a driver for real estate values. You're attracting tenants and you're retaining them. And if you can reduce turnover, that's one of the critical aspects to driving value in real estate. From the business sense, again, if you can pour into a relationship and create a deeper connection between landlord and tenant, even tenant to tenant, create that community, even if you're just facilitating it and not necessarily a part of it, that's a really good thing for your business. You're reducing turnover, you're keeping people longer, you're keeping your building at a higher occupancy level. And from a ministry perspective, that all really is underpinned by relationships as well. So yes, we seek opportunity to share the gospel and we seek opportunity to love on people well. But if you haven't knocked on the door, if you haven't created some sort of relationship connection with those people, it's much harder to go there. One of the leaders in the space is Apartment Life, and they've published some pretty interesting research. They've been around for over 20 years. A few years ago, at least, there was a study published that suggested that the average apartment building that employed and partnered with Apartment Life actually had an NOI, which is our measure of earnings, unlevered earnings or EBITDA in the private equity world, was $180,000 per building better when they had Apartment Life as compared to not having Apartment Life. So that right there is evidence of increased profitability, better financial performance. And Apartment Life is a faith-based organization that's really focused on caring for people well and loving the tenant community and creating relationships. So they are missionally oriented, but there's economic fruit and financial fruit in the property as a result of it. Apartment Life does everything from welcome tenants when they move into a building. So you can imagine that can be a lonely endeavor, right? Move to a new city, a new building, move into your new apartment, get the keys, and no one says hello. No one really gets to know you at all. They start there. So door knocks when people move in to their units. And then they throw quarterly events, are really focused on creating community, and ultimately can point to successes with Bible studies that have started, church plants even, so that the longer they can be present and a part of a community, the more fruit there is.
Okay, what stands out? They take a very kingdom-based principle from the very beginning. In the beginning, God said, let us make man in our image. We're made to be in relationship. They just said, we're going to make this community, we're going to make these apartments based on relationship. So they took their faith to work. They did have them synonymous, the way they're telling, and how long did it take them 20 years to figure that out? I'm not saying that, nobody's saying they did it perfect and they said, we'll burn this thing down if it doesn't plant a church or have some Bible studies in 5 months. They didn't say that. It is hard to tell where he's talking about the kingdom, where he's talking about NOI. You know that term? Well, okay. What's that mean, Hurston?
Net operating income.
Okay, good. So then, NOI, and human flourishing itself. It's all kind of intertwined, and that's the goal. Oh, you might be lonely. So what's the part of the kingdom that lasts? Are the buildings going to last forever?
No.
Probably not. Yeah, and if they are, they're going to be glorious in heaven. Believe some skyscrapers and things will be there. I'm not pushing back on that. It's going to be better than I can think or imagine. But certainly in their own state, in their imperfect state, they're not going to be there. That one crooked wall won't be there. So it's all intertwined. You see, we stop and we recognize people. Well, who has a business that can't do that? And who has a business that your exit survey or your customer annual referral survey, that net promoter score, that's one of the most important things in business, says if you not only are you satisfied and valued, but will you refer me to somebody else? Somebody says that's the most important stat in business. I believe that still is. We've never had an apartment like this. We stay here because they care about us. We stay here because we know our neighbors. We tell everybody to move here. It's a community. They care about us. They checked on us. Who has a business that you wouldn't be better off saying, pick on Walker, he doesn't mind, if they would say, wow, I'm not sure he doesn't care more about me than he cares about my money. That'd be a good thing to say. To work on that contract, it's going to straighten all legal affairs out at that big Fortune 500 company. I'm not sure they don't care more about me than they care about how we get this done. and getting those kingdom principles in there. Where's this off of a kingdom principle if I shape it back? It doesn't mean, it's not a pay-for-performance gospel. It's not a health and wealth gospel and that everything I do, I can see the nickel. It's not that. But actually, I think we don't talk enough about that it is a health and wealth gospel for the long term. You are going to be perfectly healthy. You are going to be, you're going to be limitless, an abundance of what you have is going to be not able to be counted in that life. It's about where, and actually he gives us a little taste of it if we'll come along and do his principles. That doesn't mean they won't take a big bet and you won't build some apartments that bust trying to do the same thing. It doesn't mean that. Because here's what's true. It is just good. Who wants to be known as a transactional provider? Who's got that in their mission statements? We want to do transactions and maximize every transaction. And just give that to the client. Dallas Wood's hilarious because you never say, hey, let me tell you about our profit margin, to the client. But we don't say that. But so in media, you get hired and fired for how well you're doing, but then being in touch with them. How are you doing with this? How are you doing with this change? That's where your clients become loyal. That's where clients overlook mistakes. So it is just good business. That's one thing this company is saying. It is just good business to create community where people want to stay and build relationships. That's just good business. We just tested it out with the kingdom principle, and then we kind of sparked it on by encouraging everybody and letting them know that they're welcome here. And then we sparked it a little more. Somebody said, hey, can we start a church over in this big room over here? I said, yeah, you can. They're like, yes, it's working. Yes, it's working. Oh, can we do, you mind if we, at the fire pit, we all do a big Bible study? Is that okay here? It's okay. You might need Bibles. So it just organically grows, okay?
By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ.
Joining him.
Yeah. Truth has already been defined. I'm already totally taken care of. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. I'm covered. And Paul, this is the guy who said, he's talking to the church here about how to build a church, by the way, and he's already had those verses that Jason was talking about, that Apollos watered and I planted, or maybe vice versa, but it's God who caused the growth. It's God who does the work. But by the grace given to me, but Paul said, I want to go where no one else has gone. He had a sub-call. His main calling was to follow Jesus and to do likewise. A sub-call, he wanted to be at a place where nobody had ever preached before. He wanted to uncover it. That's his sub-calling. And he's saying, but I still laid a foundation by the main builder. And each of you now, I've helped you. Now you go build with care on top of this, because he's leaving. You keep building this with care. You keep shoeing those horses, you keep planting those vineyards, and you build with care what we've started here. No one can lay a foundation other than one already laid. It's already in Christ. And any other foundation, we're going to see what happens. It doesn't last. Anybody, the builder said, it don't last long.
If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work.
What do you think he's saying about your work? He's talking about the church too, but it does apply to your daily work, because you're always a spiritual being, always. You're never not. What's it saying about our work? If I'm maximizing, there's plenty of apartments that have been built to maximize profit. Glass is expensive. The more we have to frame it in, the more expensive it is. Am I right? Builders and construction people, yes. Oh, but more glass, more openness. Now 180,000 more per building. Oh, I want openness. I want community. I go for a principle, and God decides to reward it. I could be wrong on that. I could be right on the principle and wrong on the execution. So it's not necessarily a trade-off, but I start to do things His way. Oh, more community, more greeting. Oh, we're going to hire a person just to welcome people. Well, that'll cost us, fully loaded, that'll cost us $82,000. Oh, but everybody deserves to be welcome. We want to be a place that's welcoming, and we think if we welcome them, they'll welcome others, and we'll create a community. You'll keep going.
If what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. If it is burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but yet will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames.
And then just good work. If I put a kingdom principle in a non-redemptive person, because I don't know, it's not my job to judge which person. But if I teach that person to build buildings with more glass, I took my daughter to college. She couldn't go to this certain college down in New Orleans because there's no glass anywhere. And their windows are like this, and I can't see out. I can't go to college there. So it's a funny way to choose colleges. But people think that way. So that's Tulane, by the way. Didn't I go to Tulane? They got now they're brand new buildings, all glass, by the way, on that campus. But if I put that principle in them, if I just treat, like Tom's saying, he's already a light. The guy just is approaching him. So if I love people and care for them, that might last too, because if I teach them to build buildings correctly, or to raise employees correctly, or to care more for the person than for the task, a hard thing that every one of us fails at every day, by the way. I did. I got Taylor's a witness for sure. But if ultimately that employee knows I care more about them than I do the work, and I mean it, and they know if I mean it or not, that lasts, and then they can treat somebody else that way. And then another person can see that principle, and like Paul, once he knew, he had the whole Bible memorized and was lost. So it's not about memorizing scripture, it's not about throwing out verses, it's about understanding redemption. But then when God knocked him off his horse, that scripture, all that he memorized, everything hidden in his heart became alive. So it's not against memorizing scripture too. He's real thankful he memorized it in an unredemptive state. But it will be tested. And so I think about, there's stuff I'm doing, I give bad advice sometimes. Some of you know it, come to my office and me, it's like, that was bad advice. So, but that might not last, but the person will. And think about what would suffer loss. What would you hate? You'd hate for somebody you really love to not make it. You would suffer a great loss. One of your kids, one of your friends, one of your coworkers you really like doesn't make it. That's going to be really painful. And because you're seeing it happen while it's happening. In heaven, there's going to be no more sorrow, no more loss, no more crying, no more tears. Everything's going to be perfect. But right now you can see somebody going the wrong way, and it's painful. Even a redemptive person who's totally saved, making a bad decision. You can see it. They can't see it because they're right here on it. You can't see right here, can you? I can't read on my hand. But you can see it, and you can encourage them along the way. It is painful at times. It's like this, okay? I think we have a grid for it. The way you think about is how you build a building in it, Cal. How should they do it? Should they rent, buy, build? What are the economic impacts? You have that to every day, even in a legal case. What are the economic impacts of investing this much, doing this much research, calling in these witnesses? Will it be good or bad? And they're all different, by the way. This isn't one funnel for how to do work. This is all sorts of different. Realize there are different combinations every day, and it could be different impacts. But this one is, so it's negative to build, but the social, in this case of the apartments, negative to build, but the social relational flourishing, they believed, this is in prospectus, they believed it'll be 3 times better, give or take. I'm just 3 smiley faces better, not necessarily the math. And then the spiritual impacts will be better. I can actually deal with all these things at once. What would the investment be? Would it be good for them? But I know what I want at the end of the day. The client's going to hire me again, not because I win or lose necessarily, but because he knows I kept his interest at heart. He knows I cared about it. Any questions or thoughts on this? It's close to the question you had that day. I keep wanting to bring it back. I'm going to think of it. Okay. That in every decision for your business, you've got economic impacts, give or take. In every decision for your business, you have human flourishing impacts. Will this be good for this person, bad for this person? Will this help this person, not help this person? And in every business decision, you have a kingdom impact. And so weighing all that, one doesn't necessarily, I funnel it because we hope the kingdom impact wins. I don't know. That apartment company is saying, we went for the kingdom impact and actually created more financial and put it back in here. That Nika Capital that we looked at 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were saying they didn't give up. They didn't willy-nilly make the decisions. The waste management company they ran in South Africa, they're saying, we're not giving up 51% because we think we're good stewards of it. The same way Paul didn't give up his Roman citizenship. He probably didn't give up his business. He's a good steward of it. By the way, we're using this to make missionaries. Some of the biographers coming along is going to tell the whole story. I'm not sure he really knew that. I'm not sure Luke wasn't over there writing on the side. I don't know. But all this going together, it's all one decision. You don't make a decision that's not a spiritual decision. All this, and just backing up to this verse for a second. The next verse is this. Do you not know that you're God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him. For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. I already said you're God's building. God is building you through all this. Here's the hope. God is building you through all this. While you seek and strive to build His kingdom, He's building you. And that's going to last for sure. His Spirit's in you. In a devotional the other night, like, do you realize that you're more, we kind of think we're a human being that has a spiritual experience every now and then, but you're totally a spiritual being having a human experience from somewhere from 42 to 99 years. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You never drop the spirituality. You're always a spiritual being, 100% of the time. So looking at things this way helped me then redeem the nickels, help me redeem the value we're trying to add to the client, and go forward. You read. Your turn to read. Oh, and let me set up this. Jesus, in the way that Jason Fisher talked to us too, Jesus also sent people with nothing. And that early on in his ministry, the Chosen episode on this is hilarious. Like, hey, just go. We don't know anything. Just go. So go and take nothing with you, and if somebody doesn't treat you right, shake the dust off your feet and move on. And ask to stay with them and disciple them. And not giving a lot of detail here, but go. And then he finishes the instructions this way. Okay.
Whoever listens to you, listens to me. Whoever rejects you, rejects me. But whoever rejects me, rejects him who sent me. The 72 returned with joy and said, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. He replied, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you.
Who in their moving forward in kingdom business, I don't know. I don't know if I should do that. I don't know. It might not be me. It might not be the right time. I might make a fool of myself. I might not be equipped to do this. I might not be ready to help somebody who's just become a Christian. I might not be ready to lead them to something, and then what if they do have a question? What will I do? Who said, I don't know if I'm equipped? Everyone. And by the way, there's a good humility to that. And God says, you're equipped. I'm in you. You're mine. I got you. You're equipped to go. You're equipped to do this. Christ is in you, the hope of glory. You're totally equipped. And then so he's told them that basically, go on. Hey, we're not ready. No, go on. And they go and they come back going crazy. Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. When we say demon, be cast out, it goes. We're not even, some people believe our society is so kind of dulled down to the gospel, we don't even notice demons. I don't know the answer to that. But they could see them and they could tell them to get out. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I see evil being turned back. Who'd like to see that? Amazing. And here's what Jesus says. I've given you authority to trample over snakes and scorpions and overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. Everything. He's not talking about snakes in the woods. He's talking about real problems. Nothing can harm you. You go in my name. You do it in my name. You always say my name at every meeting. Maybe not. You got to meet the presenting needs. But you go with authority and the love of me, and I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. That's what he's saying. And look at the great reward.
However, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven.
Oh, demons run in fear of you as you tell them to be cast out. Satan is turned back when you put everything toward him. When you turn your business toward kingdom purposes, amazing things will happen. That's the testimony of those guys at that apartment community. That's what they're saying. Not only did we do it and do it was good for people, but It created more flourishing so we could do more of this. God liked it so much. He's the one who provides everything. He provided our skills. He provided our experience. These people who showed up to work for us, He provided. He made them. He loves them. And we're just trying to be faithful, and He's chosen to bless us. But that's not the greatest part. It's not that churches got planted there, not that Bible studies got head there, but that their names are written in heaven. The joy, the reward is Jesus Himself. And when do you write your name in heaven? When?
Before the foundation of the world.
A little louder.
Before the foundation of the world.
Let's say it together. When was your name written in heaven?
Before the foundation of the world.
That's the reward. And your faithfulness, when you see your faithfulness in heaven, you're going, oh, it's like 10 cities. That's 2. Walker's going to see Wade's and go, man, 3 cities. I'm pretty happy with 1. That's awesome. I'm happy about 1 city. I'm happy with what He's given me. There's no jealousy. No jealousy when your quarterback throws a touchdown pass and you win the game and the receiver gets it. Everybody goes crazy. It's not till next Wednesday they go, is he going to get a better NIL deal than me? No, in the moment they love it, it's going to be like that. Pure rejoicing always that some get more rewards. That's what we're covering. But your name's written in heaven. You can't turn that back. But He's just saying, it's your greatest asset. Use it. It's your total greatest asset. All right, comments? Thoughts? What do you want to do with it? Yeah, if you can preach yourself up this every hour and then walk into that meeting with this hope. Lord, You got this meeting. It's going to go the way You want to go. Help me to love these people in this meeting. And deliver the product I promised to deliver. I mean, I can't lose sight of, I can't say this is a meeting about this and flip it and read 10 passages. I have to love them for what they've asked. And then I have permission to maybe meet that guy the next time I'm in New York and let's really talk about this. And yes, in one sense it doesn't matter, He's got us, but because He's got us, He's not going, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Here's why I've written Mike's name in heaven. Here's the reason. One day he's going to meet this wonderful bride, and he's going to have these kids, and they're going to raise his family wonderful, and they're going to do this, this, and this, and he's going to surrender his business, and he's going to put things toward kingdom purposes, and he's going to do this, so I think I'll choose him now. No. He chose him because He chose him because He chose him, and then He's revealing to Mike what He'd have him do. Bit by bit, go and be faithful. See that you don't have more joy. You're loved perfectly, John 15, 9 and 10. You're loved perfectly. As the Father loves Jesus, so you're loved. Now keep My commands so that your joy will be full. Not to earn it, so you'll have more joy now. Chose you because He chose you because He chose you, and every little grace to see what He'd have us do next. And it's not, He's got me. I can't really mess it up. At the same time, that makes this meeting matter all the more. Because I'm the grace and light in the meeting. Christ is in Charlie, the hope of glory. So He can, this person, this may be the only chance they get to know. God already knows. You can't mess it up, but you can surely be faithful. You can surely know that you're a 100% spiritual being in this meeting. What else? Anybody else? What's a hope and what's a reality and a hope of what we've learned today? And even the trying. It's not, I get to participate in something He's already preordained. What joy. He made me. He's the reward. I rejoice, my name's written in heaven, and then my light shines. And then some guy asked me, hey, I became a Christian. I think you might be one. Can I talk about this with you? Wow. That's encouragement. It's encouragement. It's a lie to say, oh, these 7 people's salvation rests on me. Oh, that'd be a lot of pressure. My own doesn't rest on me. I'm sure I hope the other 7 doesn't. Oh, but I'm so full of joy. I'm so full of promise. I'm so full of knowing where my name's written. I can be faithful. I can be faithful and shine the light. And I get more joy while I do it. It was a joyful trip home, wasn't it? No matter, I don't know what the conditions were. Might have bounced all the way home, but it was joyful. Lord, thank You that You're our source of joy. Help us to sell everything and buy the field in great joy, counting nothing else as loss, but desire to know You better and live in Your promises deeper now, and that we might be lights so the world might know us. What a charge, what a joy to get to do, what a responsibility, but also What a peace that you've already done it, that we can walk in it. Help us, Lord, today. Be encouraged. Help us not to forget it at 10:30 in the tough call, at 2:30 when we're thinking about just resting from our work. Help us to know you're with us every single minute, and help us to inform how we love others. In your name, Jesus. Amen.